Good day, this is Mike Olden. I'm here to share with you how I overcame an issue of pooling and puddling on a traditional boat. This is my runabout Crown Line 1999 boat that I'm going to go ahead and build some PVC supports for underneath. Now, my unique situation is I put this in the water and have unique ways to tie it up at the dock. My biggest problem that I have on that is that this pocketed area here in the front and of course behind the glass, they tend to have a sink situation because there's lack of physical structural support to hold them up. So I'll work on some swag so y'all can order some swag, but I want to go ahead and introduce the fact that I'm going to be building a PVC support for a runabout boat while it's in the water. Hope you enjoy the video. So the first steps we're going to take is measuring a distance to our crossover lines, which are the supports that will hold while it's in the water the boat straps, and they're going to be positioned here at the midpoint, and then right behind the windshield we'll put another support coming from here midpoint across. We have the tie up underneath. You can see the protrusion on both sides. We're going to support up off that so we don't get an indentation point. Then here at midpoint across the back, following through to our slip in the back. So the idea is we'll have PVC brace here, PVC in the middle, PVC right in front of the interior seating, leading back to the back deck of the boat. So I'm going to go ahead and get some measurements through here. So I'm using my trusty old tape measure, my 33-foot Pro Stop power tape measure, and working from the back angle of the cross strap to the front of the boat. I'm going to be roughly at my cleat, which is positioned up underneath here, right at 5 feet to that first point. And to the very front point of the bow, I will be at 77 inches. Because your boat is not going to follow your tarp, it's very important to get the measurements to it in a straight line as possible. And a little bit of trick is going to be doing the estimating pull push type of give and take. So let's see how this goes. So my next fixed point that I have is going to be at the window ridge on the bow rider, and I'm letting it come down as a drift because as I elevate it off, that drift is actually going to work to my benefit on a concave basis. It'll concave, whatever the opposite word of concave is convex. It'll convex to where it focuses that same rise to the point of where I'll be in the front. And again, to my cleat, that is at 112 inches, and taking it to the bow, 112 inches and taking it to the bow is 128. That's to, again, our front, the top of the windshield. We're trying to elevate it to where we aren't getting dimples. My next measurement I'm going to take is the width inside the rail of the boat, so I know my width from side to side. Brow beam you can do without the tarp on. Right now, for the video purposes, I'm just going to add it. So a little bit of trickiness here. Going from side to side on my top rail, I had to take a measurement from my inside rail to the middle here, and I brought myself to where I'm at 64 inches to the interior. Now from that measurement, I need to take off my cushion where you can see my hand grabbing, and that cushion is going to be will allow me to set inside the boat full width that cross beam that I'll set, of course, to go from here is my first point of reference as I come up to the top and over the top of that windshield. But again, my number here was 64 inches. As a quick recap, I'm looking at from the front cleat to the windshield is my 112 inches. My distance from here across is 65 inches, less the 4 inches on each side. So the 64 inches less the 8 will bring me down to 56 inches of pole spread that I have for my first position of my canopied roof that I'll be creating. So on the interior of the boat, from side to side, you don't go by the bow or the hull width or beam width. So when you're creating your PVC piping, don't go by the beam width. You definitely need to take some measurements from the inside window, allow for your offset to where you're going to physically put your stand down on top of the flooring for your pole and bracing. So let's take a look at the width here at the driver's seat and behind that midpoint we were talking about earlier. Here we are. I've got my measuring tape drafted across the midpoint from outside of my window to this side is physically 79 inches. I'll be offsetting it better part of 8 inches on each side to make sure I have the widest support for coming across, and you'll see later as to the beam that I'll put as the spread, the full measurement. So this is our rough draft drawing, which makes it kind of easy because using that I can come down to my next support location, which is going to be in front, and it as well is right at 2 more inches more. So that makes it to where I'll be at, instead of 79, I'm going to go up to 82 inches and then again work my offsets. So here we are on the inside of the boat of my bow rider. Maybe a little bit of dirt at the front. Gonna get kicked for that later on. But the height from the floor is not going to be my driver. My height from the cushion is going to be my primary driver because I want to have the best spread side to side for that knuckling effect, that bridging effect, to allow the water to whisk to the outsides as it's sitting in the water, listing a bit, but to be able to come out to the outside and drift away. So I'm going to take a quick measurement on the height. All right, so my height itself, so my height, if I take a look at heights from the edge, I'm going to come up right about, I kind of crashed down on me here, but right at 20 inches down to 18 inches, and this is important so I can buy the right amount of piping. And then again from here to the rest, so again my goal will be to come off of here, bend across, and then come to a center line which will project towards the windshield in the compartment inside the main cabin where the driver sits. The inside width between the side of the boat to the side of the boat is 76 inches. We talked about the sound of the hat being on top of here, so I'm going to raise this up as well, and I'm going to be peaking below that 54 inches by coming down to 48, so a nice gentle slope coming down off the center beam to a midpoint, using a T to go left to right, and that way we have support again along our main line heading back to again guide the water up and off the side. My comment was that I want to raise it up a little bit to go ahead and create an area for the doghouse. When you get put to the doghouse, it's nice to have at least a modality, some radios, and a place to where if you're trying to hang out because you've been kicked out, you got a place to go. One of the measurements we didn't take earlier was the measurement between the current rib that I'm on and the one that's by the driver's seat. All right, so we're going to do the distance between the rib back here and the rib in front of it, and the expanse of that is looking at 58 inches. Doing a double check on it again. Glad I did double check, measure twice, cut once, 55 inches. Do I shrink anymore? Nope, still at 55 inches on the spread. So I'll have one beam coming for support at the at 55 inches spread between the two, and that'll take it to where the water will whisk away to the back of the boat. At the back of the boat, we're going to need to build a collar to fasten on and hold it so it doesn't pull forward and let the rain be in control. We want to be in control of the rain. Here we are at the back of the boat, and I realize that there's not really a reason to do any additional measurements, because when we tie this into the evening, the strapping mechanisms that I'll be using will come off of the outside cleat here and flow up to that point, creating an outer channel on both sides from the cleat that'll come up underneath, so that the line will be suspended from this point to that midpoint. But it should be a really nice fix, because the strapping itself will be part of what secures the bottom and allows for the ventilation. And as you can tell, we have plenty of rise that we can give to our in-water support. So, hopefully it all works out. Let's see. So I'm here at the depot. I've acquired a lot of items that I think will work, from my 45-degree angle that's up on the front bow to my junction point. I have a 3T coming back. I'll insert midway a 45-degree angle to take it up over the windshield, leading into a 4-way connector, which will go out to that front behind window support that you saw. This will go back out to another T at the back, which will lead out to the outer edge. So I'll have a little tent at all the right pressure points around the outside. Dropping down, I've got some caps to put on the little foot that I'll have down at the bottom, which I'll turn an angle to give it the best support. May eventually turn that over to a 3-way angle, but for right now we're doing it as a 2-way. So it'll come into a T at the bottom, and we'll flange out and cap it for the best support there at the bow, midpoint, and at that back crossroads bridge. All right, so we got everything loaded up in the car, and I got my fittings back in the back, and we're gonna head back to the boat in just a little while. All right, we're back at the boat and about to climb inside to start making our measurements and doing our cuts. And got a boat all unsheathed, so let's see how she does. All right, got my canopy down and come by and take a look. Gonna put a footing, front bench set there, coming up on the T and going across to the back. It's gonna be cool. Got the tape measure. Gonna go ahead and knock out my longer posts. That way I know they'll fit. So that first measurement again, we're coming up 48 inches. Get me right there level with the U of the GV or GUT. And we're gonna cut right across that. Handy dandy tool, just cranking down on that. Gotta like famous tools, my friends. And make sure that it's the same height. We're gonna do something relatively easy. We're just gonna go ahead and make sure it's the same height, just by kind of climbing over here across and clipping right there at that same point. Across the bow and the beam here, we're going to go 67 inches on the next piece. That 67 took me right there to the M, and then that's my particular boat's beam. So we're running into a bit of an interesting point. We have this pivot point up at the top here, which this piece will attach to, and then it will drop down into the front. My question is, do I have enough height on the outside with what we've got going on? So I've got to take some additional measurements and have my first change. All right, so what I ended up doing was taking and making a longer list away from the main shield, brought it back down towards it so I can clear the front windscreen. And as you can tell in the back, I've got to do some reattachments of some things as they work from the front to the back, but it's an exploration. So what I ended up doing was putting my T on the bottom with a 6-inch, a 45 going into a 3-inch, another 45 going into an 18-inch into the T that will lift up towards the back. And now for the final moments, about to put this around the top and walk around the outer edges to get the tarp set. We got our first one. Now we're going to start doing the walk around. And there we have it. We got everything cinched down around. One thing I'll need to do, come back after this video, is you see the little nodule on the back of my 45s. I thought it would ride better, but it's a little bit of a poke, and I don't want it to puncture through the tarp, so I'll be doing that as a next clean out. But as you can tell, wonderful support front to back. And again, my name is Mike Olden. Glad I shared this with you. Hope you had fun doing it as well.